Dillon Bast. I'm in the Regina office, and I'm currently on the CX operations team. Really, the only thing I can think of what is interesting is what I currently do is how I'm kind of tied in with every single team in the company, with the internal tool and the other tools I make. Um,
But
but, but
I want to start there. You, I mean, I think everybody gets a, a unique perspective on the company from where they are.
mhm,
But I'm particularly excited or jealous of somebody who gets a really broad view.
mhm.
Is that true?
Yeah, so I'm working with all of integrations. I'm figuring out how to turn on every single integration on a client's database. I'm learning about our internal processes and I'm trying to make them easier to manage. So I'm working with marketing. I'm working with the client managers. I'm working with a bunch of other different types of teams to see their processes and to seeing what I can leverage from my knowledge of how to make their processes easier to manage.
I, are you seeing a theme? From your viewpoint, do you go from one team to another and go, boy, they all experience the same issue, or they all uh, can benefit from the same sort of thematic thing?
Um, yes and no. In specific buckets of say the developer area, like the integrations, the payments and stuff, I do see a somewhat theme that is starting to go away. It's how a lot of things that are being developed um, aren't being the actual turning on and turning off processes weren't being thought of in the past. So, for example, with the Apple Lock stuff, there's an easy way to turn it on and off on the database level, but for the client level, there's no easy way to turn it on and off. So I had to build a bridge to make a client way easier. And I noticed that for all the value adds, like turning integrations on and off. But it seems like that's starting to go away, which is really nice.
Okay, so I don't think a client would distinguish what you do versus what our product does. Like you're essentially doing product development or feature development uh, uh, in a different process than we typically think it's happening. Is
Yeah,
that true? Like,
kind of true. So I'm everything I do is internal only. So anything I make doesn't go out to the clients. It's for the internal teams then utilize. So in the Apple Lock example, instead of having the client being able to turn it on and off, the client managers can now turn it on and off for their client. But they didn't have a way to do that when that feature was initially developed.
oh, I okay, thank you. That's cool. Then it's like we probably have made some pretty good functionality, but it's like I they talk about it in utilities, like the last mile is the most expensive. So you can lay a really significant infrastructure, but it's the last little piece to touch the final user that's most uh, challenging. And is that fair that you're making those final connections and making sure they're working better for what those features are?
I'd say yeah. Um, so yeah, what I've done, if you have ever used the internal client tool at all, I have an area in there that now for every single integration we have, and going forward, the integration team loops me in when they need something added in there. I have it just be a button press to turn on an integration for a client, rather than having the client manager jump from team A to team B to team C back to team B to team C to try to figure out and organize this turning on a feature, because sometimes it's not as easy as asking a single person.
That's a huge victory to now be looped in to the planning and the process. You have clearly just have a brand of making things work and happen. But like this functional need? Is it something that is sustainably always there now?
Yeah, it's starting to be. So, um, I don't like recently there's been an integration that they needed to do, and they reached out to me before it even went to RC to be like, hey, like we're making this integration, and it'd be great if you could work with us to then put it in the tool so we could turn it on and off as needed.
Where did you come from? You're in a really unique spot. Is this what you went to school for?
Yeah, I went to school for computer science, so I I did kind of go to school for what this is. Yeah.
Oh, that okay. I I it's I think what's really neat is that you, because of how you do it, and what the gap you've filled, you've redefined a little bit of how this is happening. I think it wasn't necessarily anticipated or perceived before you were making it happen, right?
It kind of was. So back in the day, I started off in EOC, which was like a tier two support role, and back then we had something called Success Portal, which somebody made and then never maintained. So it kind of just got out of date very quickly. And so from working on EOC, I worked with all the integration team then and like the payments team and a bunch of other teams to learn how things work. And then I just progressed through the company to then land in this role. To now I can actually build upon my past knowledge and learn more about these integrations and be able to bring that much needed centralized um, hub, if you will, together for people to use and manage things.
So if you will, help me see the future a little bit. Like, where does what are the uh, coming trends or challenges for uh, being this hub, creating this hub for our colleagues?
So the future I see as getting a lot more requests from teams I haven't worked with in the past, trying to add their things in or seeing if I can solution something for them to fill a hole that they're seeing as a team. Some of the challenges I have seen or I anticipate seeing is some development work may be skipped because of what I do. Um, so what I want is long term, I want everything that I kind of do to be integrated into our IQ ecosystem. Like I want customers to be able to manage their own value adds in Hub rather than having our client managers manage it through a separate internal only tool. Um, and I'm worried that I might become, for lack of a better word, a crutch to these teams that, oh, we can just add it into this internal tool and we don't have to think about adding it into our IQ ecosystem that way.
If you had a magic wand, would you just um, request like a certain process or activity be done in development? Like could we increase something to sort of uh, assure that that happens?
I'm not too certain. Like some of our integrations and stuff would need to be managed like at a higher level. Like we wouldn't want our client managing turning it on and off. But even if we can still get it into Hub, so we don't need a third party tool that we have to maintain, and then the team who owns that integration can own that little Hub integration as well, and they can manage it themselves without having to go through a third party type thing.
That's really cool. I, I'm curious just about you as well. Like, what's your future? Where are you headed?
So right now, I'm doing a lot of other stuff too. So I've been doing a lot of Salesforce integrations. Like I'm building out some reporting for our CX circle as well, which is my main circle. So I'm building a lot of internal reports and areas there to help those processes and gather better data for our client managers and support teams to better serve our clients. So going forward, I feel like I'm just going to get more utilized in being able to provide data that we thought might not have been providable in the past because we just never reached out to someone and asked.
Do you know about the Apollo 13 problems they had when they went to the moon and they couldn't uh, filter air or something like that? And so they had, in that movie scene, they just said, this is all you have. Now figure out how to create a filter. And they just built this thing that properly worked. Like it was just, it required this ingenuity to just take just the pieces we have and make them work together.
I do
I,
remember that, yeah.
I feel like you do that when we have a thing over here and a need over here, and you just go whatever is available, or okay, I'll just work within our parameters, but we're going to make these two things talk to each other. Is that accurate?
Yeah, actually, I never thought of it that way, but yeah, it is very accurate. Like, I get teams reaching out to me. Like, for example, I had a team reach out to me the other day, be like, "Hey, here's our data. This is what we want to do with our data. We don't know, like, we don't know how to make this middle in between part of it. Kind of like, here's what you have. Here's what we want. Can you kind of create that bridge?"
I I need to stop trying to pin you down for what your role is, but it's like you're you're an internal dev team, like
Pretty
uh,
much, yeah.
okay. I this is helpful for me. I hope that other people want to watch this, but it's just like I finally have a better understanding of what you're doing and why everybody's celebrating that you're doing this stuff for them.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't know what I do and they don't understand what I do. They just kind of like if you don't use one of my tools, if you don't see what I'm making, I kind of just don't exist for you, if that makes sense. Um, but like if you start using a tool, you might not know where it came from. You just be like, "Oh, this is super handy." But yeah, it's a lot of. I feel like I have a lot of potential to make people's work days more meaningful to them by taking away those mundane kind of I got to run this report every day and then do these calculations. And if I could just turn that into like an automated report kind of thing, just have that, give them back for a day.
Yeah, yeah. When I hear those stories of people that took an 8 hour a day job and turned it into a 15-minute automated macro thing, and then they had the rest of their day off, I think you know how they did that.
I do have experience in doing something similar at a past job.
Uh, okay, I think we'll talk about that after I thank you so that we can put this a time limit to this. Thank you very much for sharing your perspective and letting everybody have a better understanding of what you're doing.
Yeah, no problem. It's my pleasure. I really want people to know what I do, and I'd love for people to reach out with ideas that they think they would want to do, and I could try to help them see if it's a possibility.
Oh, good. Thank you. So that's a message I we should make sure we catch. If somebody's saying there's got to be a better way, you're an excellent person to reach out to talk to.
Yes.